I'm gonna discuss like how I feel about this corruption vendor because I kind of feel like it's a bit of a scam. I wanna I wanna go over what exactly is happening with the corruption vendor. And I also want to go over what's happening with the cloak leveling up. I'm going to start with the cloak first. So I would like to say that the cloak leveling up to 15 was well done. I think Blizzard did a good job. So basically, as long as you do your visions properly, it'll take 14 goes in order to get your cloak to 15, which is infinitely faster. Basically, if you don't screw up, you're going to finish your cloak quest in one run every single time, which is incredible. You can see here, 13 to 14 was 6 pages, which was 3 runs, and 14 to 15 was 8 pages, which is 4 runs. So just to go from 13 to 15 was 7 runs for two ranks. So Blizzard did a good job making it much easier. So I'm pretty happy about that. But what I'm disappointed about is that you can only get a maximum of 6 corruption resistance a week past 15. So right now I feel like the max is probably, if I'm correct, 80. I'm a little bit behind because I don't really care that much. But basically you get a +3 to your resistance if you do N'Zoth. And if you do, I believe, a 5 mask vision, it could be a 4 or 3 mask. But either way, you can only get 1 corruption upgrade per vision that you do, and 1 corruption upgrade per N'Zoth that you do outside of LFR. Which means you can only get a maximum of 6 per week. Now, if you're at the 50 cap, and you can only get 6 per week, it is going to take you a very, very long time in order to catch up. I just kind of feel like, if you're gonna make it easier for people to catch up, why not just go the entire distance, and just not let people get up to that corruption resistance even faster? If people are going to be spamming visions for gear or whatever, or sockets, why not just allow them to catch up immediately? Do you really feel the need to say, you know what, alright, we feel like this is too difficult, this is taking too long, so we're going to make it easier, but we still don't want you to have all the power of people that, you know, have been doing this forever. So basically, if you get 6 a week by the time you actually catch up, I'm not going to do the math here exactly, but you can only essentially catch up 3 a week, because the people that are already at 76 or 80 or whatever it is are still getting 3 a week. So you can only close that gap by 3 every single time. It's going to take you probably 4 to 8 weeks, is just a rough estimate, to actually catch up. Maybe longer, maybe a little bit less, I'm not 100% sure. But it's still pretty ridiculous that now that the corruption vendor's actually coming out, you're still going to be a little bit behind. It's much better, you know, and I don't want to complain too much, but it just seems really weird to just kind of, in my opinion, half-ass it. So a little bit unfortunate there. Now, what I really want to talk about is the Echoes of Ny'alotha and the new corruption vendor. So basically, Echoes of Ny'alotha are literally a 100% useless currency that Blizzard added in to allow players to buy their rank 3 essences for alts if needed. So what this means is, if you have the ability to obtain them and you don't really need essences, they're just sitting here and stockpiling. Right now I have 27,000. There's some people that have 0. So for hybrids, it's a little bit easier to have them, because once you have every single essence, you can no longer obtain them. So Mez was telling me that he has every single essence, so he isn't able to get any of Echoes of Ny'alotha. But since I'm a hybrid, and I don't really care about getting my tank essences and my DPS essences, I'm still obtaining these Echoes of Ny'alotha. So when this new patch hits, I have a huge advantage over people that have none, or weren't able to collect them. Not because they're lazy, not because they weren't doing the content, but because they literally could not receive them if they have every essence. It's like being an overachiever in this sense is actually going to screw you, in a sense. Now, Blizzard's trying to make it so you get more. So basically, they're increased by a multiplier of 5. So, for example, if you were going to get 500 last patch, now you would get 2,500. It's still going to take a very long time. And if you look at the if you look at, you know, what this is, Twilight Devastation rank 3 is insane in Mythic Plus. That's gonna cost 15,000. 15,000 is probably still a pretty extreme amount, in my opinion. Another thing that I didn't say is you can now buy Vessels of Horrific Visions for Echoes of Ny'alotha, which in my opinion is a fantastic change. Once you get the corruptions that you need, you could start literally just pounding out getting sockets. Like, this is basically, people are going to have a ton of sockets immediately. I still would have liked to see the cost of sockets go down from 25,000 to maybe 15, 20,000, but this is still okay. For example, on my characters, I can literally spam visions all day because I'm only going to really want one set of corruption. I'm just going to corrupt a bunch of pieces of gear with versatility, and that's probably going to be it. But yeah, the Echoes of Ny'alotha is disappointing once again. So they obviously wanted to make this currency not useless because some people were sitting on so many. But once again, I feel like a lot of people feel disadvantaged in this regard, or, you know, whatever. Like, my teammates only have a few thousand, some of them. But yeah, whatever. I'm not a big fan of it. And lastly, what I think is the biggest frustrating thing they could have ever done is they are giving us the ability to buy corruptions. We're very happy about that. It's going to be much better than what it is. But Blizzard has decided that there's only going to be a limited inventory of corruptions at a time that will change twice a week. So this, in my opinion, is literally mind-blowing. So you're finally gonna give the players what they want, but on your terms. You're gonna choose what corruptions they could buy and when they could buy them. Guess what? If you don't have your Echoes of Ny'alotha when the corruption you want is on the vendor from Tuesday to Friday, you don't have enough to spam buy the corruption you want, boom, Friday, gone. It resets. So you got to make sure that you're stockpiled on Echoes of Ny'alotha, because if the corruption you want is not there, or is there and you don't have enough, you're screwed. I don't understand why they wouldn't just give us the option to buy them all the time. To me, what I want to compare it to is just like the Residual Vendor. You know, what if 1 week you could get shoulders? You don't need shoulders. Next week you can get helmet. You don't need helmet. Finally, you could buy your chest piece. You buy a chest piece, you don't get what you want. You buy a chest piece, you don't get what you want. You buy a chest piece, you don't get what you want. Boom. Resets. Now, this may not end up being that bad, depending on how many corruptions they have available. There's 52 corruptions. They'll probably do a nice even number on how many can go in there. That way it rotates, you know, multiple times. Or an even amount of times. But what if there's 10 up at a time? That means, you know, there's, you know, it'd be 20 a week, 2.5 weeks to find the corruption you want, potentially. It's still, it's incredibly frustrating. I don't understand the process behind it. I also feel like people that buy the corruptions, okay, let's say I'm a PvPer and I want to get full versatility or full gushing. Well, what if I want to work on my PvE set and I want infinite stars and I want the Mind Flays? You know what I'm saying? Now I don't have enough Echoes of Ny'alotha to potentially buy them when they come out, and by the time they come out, I may not have them, and it's just a very weird, frustrating thing. I don't understand it. I feel like this is just, once again, limiting the players. You know, yes, anything's going to be better than the system we have, but I just don't understand. But yeah, this is a example of what they're going to cost. Like I said, Twilight Dev Rank 3, which is obviously going to be very popular in Mythic Plus. 15,000, which I'm able to buy almost 2 of immediately. Obviously, I'm not going to. I would say, how much is a Twilight Dev Rank 1? I think I have Twilight Dev Rank 1s. Twilight Dev Rank 1 is 25 corruption. So there's not a set number here. It looks like actually the more expensive it gets, like maybe the cheaper it gets. So this is 75 at 15k, this is 25 at 6200, so it's not exactly 5k per 25 corruption. Gushing Wounds is fortunately going to be incredibly cheap. because it's only a 15 corruption, which is going to be good. And rank 3 essences, if you're buying for alts, are still 2,500 echo, or they're 2,500 echoes Nihilith, and now increased by that factor of 5. So before they were 500. But yeah, it's good news, but it's still very strange and confusing. The best thing to take from this is that if you do farm your Echoes of Nihilotha, when that vendor finally does drop, you are going to be able to target the corruption that you want. But actually, there's one more thing I want to talk about here before we wrap up, and I kind of forgot about this. Any item that has been corrupted and cleansed cannot receive a corruption. Now, this is due to a technical limitation, so we're not allowed to be angry at Blizzard about this. But it is still incredibly frustrating because all the gear that you get from your 475 weekly chest, for example, I just got this ring. Once you uncorrupt this ring, because you have to add a new corruption to it, you can't actually recorrupt it. So what this would be is considered a best in slot ring is going to be useless. It's never going to be able to be used because I can't add a corruption on it until that limitation is removed or whatever. So I got a 475 socketed ring that is actually not going to ever be useful to me. Another thing that this means is if you have a piece of gear that is an upgrade over something that you may have already scrapped, you're going to have to go through your inventory on the Battle.net account or whatever, and you're going to start restoring a ton of gear in order to be able to buy corruption on that gear. It's a very weird system. So hopefully they get that fixed. Otherwise, for example, let's just say these 475 gloves had a corruption on them and I cleansed them. I would want to use these 465 gloves that didn't have a corruption and have to put a socket on that and then corrupt those and take the 10 item level loss. So it's a really wonky system that hopefully they get solved, but basically something that we wanted but not quite what we wanted. Does that make sense? There's definitely good to it, but it still feels like it's coming with a lot of restrictions, and I still kind of am hopeful that this system is going to be frustrating enough to the point where Blizzard says, you know what, like, we're getting so late in the expansion that you don't need to refarm essences, you know? Anyone could buy rank 3 essences, 2,500 Echoes of Nihilotha. Who the hell wants to go to Eternal Palace right now? Who the hell wants to rep grind right now? You know what I'm saying? If you're a new player, you don't want to do that. You may not even know how to do that. Make all essences available. Make all corruptions available. And then, once again, every time you do a masked division, allow you to get the +3 resistance. That way you can catch up immediately. You know, make a catch-up an actual catch-up. So, Corruption Vendor, I would... If I had to rate my excitement from it from a 1 to 10, I would maybe give it like a 6 or 7. I think 10 being all the things that I already suggested. But not bad. Step in the right direction. Step in the right direction. But still very BFA. Still very BFA with the RNG. But yeah.